Hello and welcome to the Energetics of Business podcast, where we bridge the gap between the woo-woo and the tech. My name is Michelle Douglas and I'm an energetic alignment expert helping entrepreneurs to tap into their inner power and create a business that flows with ease and authenticity. In each episode, we'll dive into the strategies that blend soulful alignment with practical business know-how. Now, let's dive in and align your business from the inside out. Hello, it's Michelle Douglas here from energeticsofbusinesshub.com, and today we're going to be talking about past life regression therapy and how it works. If you've been following the website or the YouTube channel over the last couple of days, you would have noticed that I have put up a couple of testimonial videos there from two of my clients that have been through the past life regression process with me, and I have to say, it's a profound experience because I've been through it myself as well. So if you've ever wondered about the concept of past lives, you're definitely not alone, because a lot of people are very curious about it. Now, for some people, it's a bit woo-woo, but I don't know. I find that it's just fascinating. And reading Dr. Michael Newton's books, where he talks about, like, he had thousands of case studies, and he decided to conduct a case study on between lives regressions because he accidentally had a client go into a between lives situation or a past life situation. I can't remember which, but he decided from that point on to study this. And it turns out that all of these people that he regressed were, like, even though they were unknown to each other, they were all experiencing similar situations. And he thought, there's got to be some truth in this if they're all experiencing something similar. So believe in it or not, it's a fascinating experience. And there are many reasons why a person would want to have a past life regression. So I'm going to go through my list of reasons, and some of these may resonate with you. The first one is curiosity, and that was mine. So, who wouldn't want to find out who they were before? You might find out something really interesting. So I have been things like a warrior in the 1600s. I've been a light being. I was literally just a ball of light. I've been some wispy being thing living in a pink crystal. It was like a big cave. It was pink. I've been on all sorts of places. So you just never know where you might find yourself. And I think I was a redhead living like a part of royalty or something like that as well. So I've got all of these different regressions I've been through that have taken me to different lifetimes, and they're all quite fascinating. You may want to seek a past life regression for healing physical ailments. So if you've ever had a pain or something that doctors couldn't explain, sometimes the answer isn't actually in this life, and I'll share a little bit of a story about that in a minute. If you're like me as well, you may want to have a better understanding of yourself. Like, why are you here? What is your purpose? What are you here to do in this lifetime? Why are you in situations that you're in? Why do you keep doing certain things a certain way? That sort of thing. So that's a big one that comes up for people. Another reason why someone would come to me for a past life regression therapy session is for relationship healing. And it's not just romantic relationships, but, relationships with family members, friends, colleagues, and so on. Spiritual growth is another, because even though we have the past life regression and we have the between lives regression, in the past life regression, even though we do spend a bit of time in past lives, we do go into the bit between lives. And that's where we tap into or can make a connection with either your higher self, your spirit guides, or another being that steps forward to talk to you or talk to us, so that you can get some more understanding about who you are at the level of the soul. So that's always really fascinating and a really integral part of those sessions. I really like that bit when we get into there. Now, going back to healing physical issues, so in Dr. Michael Newton's book, Journey of Souls, he talks about a woman who had some leg pain. And I believe it was a long time ago that I read the book, but it was across the middle of her thighs, like right across. And no medical tests had identified what was wrong with her legs, but she just had this horrible pain that was driving her nuts and obviously causing a great deal of discomfort for her. When she was taken into the past life, they found that she, as a small girl, she had been run over by a horse-drawn carriage, and it had rendered her unable to walk. for the rest of that life. Now, when they went forward into the death scene and beyond, what they learned was that her soul had actually chosen that so-called accident because in that lifetime, she had wanted to explore more of her creative gifts as opposed to physical. And by rendering herself unable to walk, then she was actually forced to focus more on the creative side. So really interesting. But what's even more interesting is that after that session, her leg pain was gone. And if that's not miraculous, I don't know what is. Pretty cool. You could say it's a coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences, really. And then we look to clients of mine. So I have done many sessions talking about, or we've been in Roman times, we've been in prehistoric times with light beings, we've been, where else have we been? We've been on other planets. We have had, actually my husband, the very first one I took him into, we were looking at his shoulder pain, and in that particular lifetime that we found him in, he was on a beach and alone, and he was living in exile basically. And what had happened was he'd been shot in the left shoulder by an arrow, and it had started to grow over. And obviously the powers that be know that I do energy work as well. And I don't know if it was his higher self or whether it was a spirit guide or whatever, but someone started to talk through him. And I know it wasn't him because the tone and the way he spoke was not my husband. Anyway, so I was asked to facilitate an actual energy healing with Laurie while he was under hypnosis. And I was just like, I'd never done anything like that before in my life. And I'm like, okay. So I went in, I did the healing, and he came out of it feeling a heck of a lot better than what he had been before. But yeah, you just never know. And there were other ones where he was carrying all this anger because he'd been attacked in previous lives. And he was still carrying the anger in this life, which makes sense because there was a lot of anger energies that I was pulling out of Laurie back when I first started doing all the healing work that I was doing. I'm like, where's this anger coming from? And yes, some things that happen in this current lifetime that would make anyone angry, but there was also this massive link to past life trauma that he was still carrying, like this massive burden. And it's funny that as the more we pull out of him, the more weight he loses. It's really strange, and the better he feels. So we've got to be happy with that. So yeah, so it's quite interesting to see what we can actually pull out in a past life regression. So that's really high level, but I'm going to give you just a brief explanation of what actually happens during a past life regression therapy session, just so that you can get an idea of what's going to happen if you decide to book in for one. So firstly, when you book, there's a form that needs to be completed, and there's a whole bunch of questions about you, from your name, date of birth, all that sort of thing, and if there's any specific health issues that you're dealing with, that sort of thing. What I request from you beforehand is up to 10 questions you would like me to ask on your behalf during your hypnosis session, so during your regression. And who I ask depends on where we're taken, because nobody ever sticks to the script. So I've got to think on my feet and make sure I'm directing you in the right way. But yeah, so you might have questions such as, am I on the right path? Should I be doing a different job? Is this the person that I'm meant to be with? Or what is my life purpose? Or what are my next steps in this lifetime that I need to take? Or why do I have a sore foot? Or why do I have this relationship problem with this person? And the list goes on. And I'm thinking now as I say this that I might create a cheat sheet for you all that gives an idea of what types of questions you might want to ask during a past life regression therapy session, or you might want me to ask for you, so you can get some really clear answers about your way forward. And I've got a few clients now who have come out of it just having such a clear idea of what's next, that they're able to step forward when before they were feeling quite stuck. So I ask a bunch of questions. So when we do the session itself, they're done over Zoom and they're recorded as well. So I play some theta music in the background, and that just helps to calm you down and get you into that theta brainwave state. So you are still awake, but you're not asleep, you're not awake, you're sort of in that middle actually. So if I were to drop off the connection for some reason, you would eventually either fall asleep or just wake up. So there's no dramas with anything supposedly going wrong during these sessions, because you still have full control. Like, you can get up during the session and just go, no, I'm done, I don't want to do this, if you wanted to. Like, I've never had anyone do that, and why would you? But you could if you wanted to. You are in complete control of yourself, and don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. You are in full control. Yes, your visions may seem vivid, although I do have a lot of people say to me, I think I'm making this up, or I think I'm in my head. And this is why I really encourage those people just to say what comes in as soon as it comes in. As soon as you start thinking about it, you're in analysis mode and ego gets in the way, and you don't get as quality a session as you could otherwise. So definitely just say what comes in straight away. So you'll be taken into that trance state, and then I will guide you through an induction that gets you started, and then we go into a deepener to get you into a deeper trance. For past life regressions, we do need to go a little bit deeper than we would for a normal clinical hypnosis session. And then from there, we go through the process of taking you back through time. So we start with your childhood, and then we go to the womb, and then we go to the most relevant past life based on the issues you want addressed, based on the questions that you have asked. And we will then potentially go into other past lives if your being wants that to happen. Sometimes they want to go straight to the death scene, and that's fine. So we go to the death scene, and I generally have you above it looking down so you can feel quite detached from it. I don't want to create trauma for you. And then we go into the time between lives. So from the point of death to the start of the next lifetime. And this is where we get a great deal of insight from your spirit guides or soul family or even your higher self. More questions are asked there. If there is any healing that needs to be done at this point, I will take you through that process as well. And then I will gradually bring you out in a way that it's quite gentle. And then we get you to wake up. And then that's when we have a bit of a debrief. And afterwards, I send you a link to download the recording. And yeah, I then suggest you listen to that recording a couple of times, because while you may think you remember everything from the regression itself, but chances are you don't. And even the second, third, and fourth times, you're hearing something new. So it's always a fascinating thing to actually listen to. It may be a bit boring for some, because when you are in trance, you're not exactly as expressive as you would normally be. You're really like, ugh, like you're half asleep sort of thing. So that session normally goes for around 2 hours or so, including the chat. I do say to allow up to 3 hours, because sometimes they can go a little bit over. It just depends on what your soul wants for you during that regression session. So if you're feeling stuck, or whether that be in business or personally, or you're just wanting some answers, or you're just curious about what a past life regression therapy session is like, then you can book one in with me. Where it comes to business, I really find that it gives good insight as to, if you're digging into what your purpose is and how you're doing business, and we tie this into my Akashic Records work as well. We find that there are patterns that you are repeating from past lives, and we can address those as well. And I can work with you to move you forward from that point on to create the most abundant result in your life moving forward. And finally, if you're really interested in this sort of stuff or anything woo-woo or different, head over to our free community at energeticsofbusinesshub.com/community. My husband and I have joined forces to create this community where we share anything woo-woo. In the community, we'll be running monthly calls, and occasionally those calls may be a group past life regression as well. So you might be able to at least do a toe in the water approach there. And from there, you can upgrade to the Academy, which does every 2 weeks we'll do calls where we'll do channeling sessions, dream interpretations, past life regressions as a group, that sort of thing. So yeah, head on over, and I look forward to seeing you there.